Hi, we're glad you're here, and we're about to begin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. KenCast After Dark. Stimulating conversations all night long. And here's your host, Ken Cole.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to KenCast After Dark. It's great to see you tonight. We have a really interesting conversation, I think. We're going to be talking about all these topics for you Cobra Kai fans. Really, these questions that you have asked about Cobra Kai Season 6. We've all seen Cobra Kai Season 5, and I now know we're all ready for more. Talking about theories of Season 5 and everything that's happening. And yeah, the question's out there. Is there going to be a Season 6? When's it going to come? If it does. And, I think we want Season 6 to happen. But, some people have brought up some doubts, and we're going to kind of go through everything we know to see if we can tell if there is definitely going to be a Season 6 and when that might come. And in order to help me go through all of this information is the brilliant man, the expert on movies, just a passionate fan of the Karate Kid movies and Karate Kid 3. He's an expert on Terry Silver. Please welcome Drew Rohaly. Drew, it's great to see you.
Hey, Ken. Hi, everybody. Peter, I did burn my beard. Thank you for the nice comments. It's good to see you all. And man, there's nothing better that I would rather be doing right now than talking to you all about Season 6, potentially, of Cobra Kai and Terry Silver, of course. So thanks for having me again.
Oh, it's our honor to have you, Drew. And it's great to have you on this Thursday evening after dark. And we're going to have this just great conversation, I think, about Cobra Kai and TV and what we think might be happening with Cobra Kai, the series, and what we have to look forward to in the future. I want to take a second to welcome everyone. Grogu says, hi, Drew.
Hey.
Chad, good to see you. Detective Bat, yep, you bet. Cobra Kai t-shirt. Heck yeah. Daniel, great to see you. Justice for Terry. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, Daniel.
100%. Rabana says, hi, Rabana. Drew. Lara, great to see you. Mike Barnes versus Mike Tyson.
Mike Barnes, easily.
Easily. Good to see you, Josh. Wonderful to see you. Kenny, great name. Love that. NASA, Drew, the man himself. Yes. Good to see you, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Wonderful. Grogu says, Justice for Terry. George, how you doing? It's amazing to see all of you guys. Hey, Reluctify. It's great to see you. And yes, from Mississippi. And guys, let us know too where you're from. We'd love to see where everyone's watching from. It's kind of amazing because Drew and I are actually across the country too. So it's nice that we can have this around the world conversation, this global conversation with everyone right now. So yeah, it's great. We have, let's see, Cobra Kai World says Season 6 is definitely happening. The writers aren't done yet. Yes, indeed.
So.
Yeah, we'll be going through all of that stuff. Yes, Cobra Kai Companion, hashtag save Terry. Save Silver. You're going to be seeing more from this channel on that. Great to see you, Marianello. And Gabe says the dynamic duo is back. What can we say, Drew? It's wonderful. Yes. James Armstrong, hope you and Drew are doing well tonight. Drew, are you doing well tonight?
I'm doing great, especially now that I'm here with you all. So, thank you. I'm doing great. Hope you are too, James.
Yeah. And Drew, I don't know, before we dive into this, do you have any just kind of general thoughts before we get into like the articles and the data? What do you think about Cobra Kai going forward? What does your heart say?
Man, I mean, look, I'll always accept more because why not, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, Netflix is weird, right? I don't know what's going on with them. And, I certainly hope that they get a renewal. And I know in one of the articles we saw Ralph said, truthfully, they don't know yet. I know there's more story to tell, but I think, maybe they hedged their bet. And I think we might have said this on one of the previous KenCasts, but if for some reason they didn't have it and it didn't come out, there was enough of a wrap up and a sort of happy ending for a lot of people in that, okay, I guess I could understand. And maybe they could follow that up with a movie like, Communities. They're making a movie for Community these days. So I think they sort of brilliantly tied some things up in a lot of ways and said, okay, if this is the end, so be it. But then maybe they have enough plot threads to either do another season or two, or even potentially a movie. So I'm very curious to see where it's going to go, though. And I certainly hope we get more seasons.
I know. And I think you're right in a lot of ways. I do have to say, though, I mean, if this ends with Terry Silver in prison, I just I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
I can't. We can't have our
Well, that's
man
true.
Terry Silver in prison. So
That's
there
not a
has to be
happy
more.
ending.
No, it's not. That's not happening. So, all right, guys, we are going to jump into some news and get into this discussion.
KenCast News.
All right, wonderful. This is exciting, Drew. We're gonna let's get into this news. All right, so we've got. Let's try it now. Let's go back. Okay. Hayden Schlossberg, one of the showrunners, tweeted today, and this is the headline news for today, is he tweeted #1 on the most viewed weekend in streaming history. The legacy of Mr. Miyagi and Master Kim Sun-young lives on. And then this is the article deadline. We're going to get into the data pretty soon, but this is kind of the headline. The series as a whole on Netflix, in its first 3 days, it beat all these other shows and movies. So, Drew, that's a huge win.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal, especially with like a movie like Thor: Love and Thunder coming out. Like they mentioned that in the tweet. Hayden puts that in there. I mean, there's a bunch of other things that are out right now. There's a lot of things streaming, and it's kind of a big deal that this happened. So it's a huge testament, I think, to what everyone has sort of put into from a creative talent, just passion standpoint. I mean, it's a huge win for this, everyone that's involved, and that's awesome. I'm really happy because it gets the respect that it deserves, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And, this is like all over the trade papers. So everyone in the industry sees this, that Cobra Kai is #1. So this is huge. I agree. This is a big deal. And I think this is very much in its favor for the future of Cobra Kai, I would think. So,
Yeah.
so that's a great thing. And so we're going to get back into this because we're going to dive into what all this means. We're going to go through a few things. Drew, for everyone who hasn't met you yet, you're actually co-host of the Last Row podcast. So tell us a little bit about this podcast and why we should listen to this tonight right after the KenCast.
So if you like the type of conversations that we have here, I think you'll enjoy the show. Me and my co-host Badway, he's been on this before too, and he's also Terry Silver's part-time lawyer, helping us get him out of prison. If you haven't watched Ken's last KenCast, go check that out, where we tried to get him out of prison. But we talk a lot about just movies that, rewatchable type movies that you forgot that you loved. We most recently did a movie on Invincible, movie podcast on Invincible to celebrate the return of football season. I'm a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan, so is my co-host. We're in the Northeast, so it's a lot of fun for us. But we try to just talk about the random things in the movies. We probably spent most of the time talking about his relationship with his wife and her leaving him and him breaking the house up instead of him actually trying out. But we had a really fun time with it. And we do a lot of action movies, a lot of 80s and 90s movies. So if you're into that kind of thing, definitely give us a listen. And, I know a lot of people from this audience have visited us over there. Thank you to everybody that's either rated us, left a comment, review. Thank you all so much for checking us out. So I think you'll enjoy the show if you haven't heard it. So definitely consider checking us out. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, I love the Last Row podcast. Just as a movie fan, Cobra Kai, Karate Kid fan, these guys are fantastic. It's just so much fun to listen to them talk about movies wherever I am. It's wonderful to have that podcast travel with me everywhere. So thank you, Drew. You guys do an amazing job.
Thank you.
Everyone check it out. The links are in the description. Okay, I'm going to plug Star Wars versus Cobra Kai. Not many videos are out there about this. In fact, I think this might be the only one. This is the longest essay I have done, the longest video essay I've done. And basically the idea is there are 7 lessons that Cobra Kai can teach to the new Star Wars. And so I go through in detail what they are. How Cobra Kai is an amazing legacy sequel. And really the gold standards for how legacy sequels should be done. So definitely check that out. If you haven't seen Cobra Cole, this ties me in with perhaps Tom Cole from the Cobra Kai series and the Big T, Terry Silver. If you're wondering about conspiracy and payoffs and working, just check that out. I think you'll enjoy it. That'll be a big kick. Okay, so Drew, we're going to kind of start to mesh the discussion and the news, because they're kind of going together today. We kind of planned this topic and we didn't know we would get actual numbers today on how season 5 did. And so we can kind of talk about maybe what people associated with the show, what they think about the show continuing in the future. And then we can kind of get into the numbers. How does that sound?
Sounds great. I'm ready.
You're ready? Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, okay. So going forward, I thought that maybe one of the best things we could do would be to look at what some of the actors say, associated with the show. And maybe we can kind of get a feeling for where their heads are at. And, maybe they have certain feelings from working on the show behind the scenes. This was kind of interesting. I don't know. I was wondering if this might be a little bit of a clickbait headline, maybe a little bit. Screen Rant does that maybe sometimes. But he does have an interesting quote. So this is Sholo, who plays Miguel on Cobra Kai. And then if we scroll down here, here's the quote. It says, "I think it goes one more like great season." Yeah, I think whether that means that season 6 is a good season, 7 is a great season, season 6 is a great season. I think the guys have really done such an outstanding job at not only, honoring the fans of the original content, but also finding a way to just bring it up one notch, and sometimes a couple of notches. But I just hope it ends on a good note, just like you're saying. I think hopefully we'll get the 6th season and we get to, do it again. But it would be unfortunate if it was one of those shows that was like, oh, it's good up until the 5th season. What do you think of that, Drew?
Well, I definitely agree with your comment about the clickbait headline, because I feel like he didn't really say that he hopes it ends soon. I mean, I think I understand what he's trying to say here, because I think, it's what we've said before, where it's like, you don't, too much of a good thing sometimes is too much, right? And I think what he's trying to say is, the story, they went through a pretty good arc here. And I think at the end of 5, it's like, okay, Terry's in jail and all this stuff. And it sort of wraps up a bunch of stuff. Where are they going to go next? I know there's the Sekai Taikai potentially, and some other things there. Maybe you introduce a whole bunch of new characters. But I think what he's trying to say is that you do run the risk of maybe going too long and maybe making it stale, or then maybe it just doesn't work if they introduce too many new characters. It's almost like go out while you're on top kind of situation. And I think that's what he's trying to say, especially where he says, that last part where it says, but it would be unfortunate if it was one of those shows like, oh, it's good up until the 5th season. I think because it might be different and there's so much of a potential shift for 6 or maybe 7, I think there's always some uncertainty with that, where you might change the landscape so much. But I do trust the people that are involved in the show. They've done a pretty good job so far. They haven't really had many missteps, and I don't know, what they could do that would make it really bad, unless they do something, thinking back to some of your Star Wars video, if they sort of start misinterpreting the characters or giving them weird motivations. But they haven't done that yet, and I can't imagine that they're going to do that. Right. So as long as the people that are involved with the show currently stay involved in some capacity, I think that it will be really hard to make it really bad, put it that way.
Right. We have James has a member of the channel. Thank you, James. Thanks for being a member, guys. Check out being a member if you're interested in supporting the channel. He says season 6 is the new Karate Kid movie. If Terry is dying, a movie would be a better way to tell that story. Well, first thing I have to say is hang on, because this weekend I'll be releasing a new video that will completely counter this idea that Terry Silver is dying. He is not dying. Hang on, and I will show it to you and I will prove it to you. It's actually the opposite. But there's also this new Karate Kid movie. So I think what James is saying is that season 6 could be just a movie, but something else we have to take into account is that Sony is actually, they've greenlit a Karate Kid movie that is not associated with the series as well.
Do with it, right? Yeah.
And that's why I think this is getting kind of weird. Like, I don't know what's going on. We don't have a green light yet for season 6 of Cobra Kai, but we do have a green light from Sony for a movie that doesn't even have a director and writer attached to it yet. It's really bizarre. Do any of these things make sense or mix or mean anything?
I just wonder how much it has to do with Netflix holding the strings to the show versus Sony can make a movie about whatever they want. And the fact is, now I don't know. I also don't know how the rights work for this. So I don't know if there's a scenario where they have to say, hey, this is unrelated, because if they were to make a movie, does Netflix get first dibs at that? Like that was something I hadn't really thought about before. So I don't know if there's any licensing or rights scenarios where
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
that's part of why it's completely separate. I'm not sure. But I've said it before. I personally, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not clamoring for like a new Karate Kid movie that has nothing to do with this stuff. I would
Right.
much prefer something that's set in this world or this universe or even the pre Cobra Kai universe, such as a Young Miyagi movie or something like that, that would give us more of the characters that we know and love. And, maybe something like that would be a little bit more exciting to me, but I'll reserve judgment until it comes out. We'll see.
Right. Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel the same way about all that. And yeah, I mean, why not? Why prejudge it? Who knows? It could be brilliant. It could be a
Yeah.
really fun idea that none of us had thought about. So that could be pretty good. Bryce says, hopefully Terry Silver is in Lompoc prison in season 6 and we get a Dutch cameo. But that's only if Terry goes to federal prison, because Lompoc is a federal prison, which I I don't even. This is a serious. Last week we did this thing. Everyone, check out the replay of that. This is a serious miscarriage of justice. I bet Terry won't even go to prison. Like he'll go to a holding cell and his lawyers will get him out, and that's it. Because the case is so weak against him.
It is. He
Yeah.
didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I don't know. I know Chris said we were slanted, and I have to say that. I heard you, Chris. But I gotta say, you can't be slanted when we're talking truth here. So
Yeah, exactly. We are. You're right. The truth is not slanted. Grogu says, I say give it 2 more seasons to wrap up everyone's arc, then do a couple of spin-offs. One focusing on the kids at college, the other a young Terry and Crease in Vietnam show. That sounds interesting.
that's a show that I want. So I absolutely. So I want either a Young Miyagi movie or a Young Miyagi show, something that builds that out. But I need more of young Terry and Crease in Vietnam, whether it's them training, whether it's them in the war. Like the actors are awesome. The guys that play them, they look
Yes.
like them. They
Yep.
are amazing, and even just the small set of flashbacks that we've got have been entertaining as heck. And
Yes.
I just want to see more of that, especially from this past season when you had Terry in the double-breasted suit, and it just
Yes.
I love that. I need more of that. Give me more pre-Karate Kid Terry and Crease. I'm all about it.
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah. Lara votes for more Dutch. Dutch returns to season 6. That would be great. Nelson Studio says Thomasine Griffith should be Magneto in the Marvel
Ooh,
Cinematic Universe.
that would be
See,
awesome.
the thing is, Thomasine Griffith deserves that. Like, he deserves a big showcase because he's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
everyone watching season 4 and 5 of Cobra Kai, there's no question anymore. We need Thomasine Griffith. We need him across
Yeah.
all media, right?
Dude, that's an awesome casting. I want him to be everybody and everything. Like he deserves it. And we talk a lot about acting clinics. He put on an
Yes.
acting clinic and he did it in Karate Kid 3. He did it in season 5. Like he just knocked it out of the park. And honestly, such an underrated actor. If he doesn't win an award for his work this past season, I'm gonna be really upset. I gotta tell you. He's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, he's incredible. In fact, we'll do this.
KenCast Thomas Ian Griffith.
There you go. Absolutely. We're ready to go.
I
We
hope
are
he
fans.
sees that.
I hope so too. Yeah, he's just really talented. We're not going overboard actually. I think we're excited now because
Yeah.
we've watched him for decades and now finally the world is catching up. At least
Yeah.
from an acting standpoint, and it's exciting.
Well, we did a KenCast on excessive force, and that was a lot of fun when we talked about excessive force, and that was
Right.
a great movie, and it had a great cast, and he was awesome in that movie. He was sort of that action star that just it never caught on, and it's unfortunate because he was great, and he's got amazing talent. And I think it was cool in this past season, you got a little bit of that because it sort of gave him a chance to flex those chops too. I think he's awesome. He's one of my favorite actors, and I just hope he gets more roles from this if he wants them. Right? I know he likes writing and stuff like that, but I hope
Yes.
he gets more out of future jobs from this stuff.
I think I agree too. Cinema Fan 97 says, I think season 6 should be the last season. As for spin-offs, I'd like to see whether a Hector Salazar spin-off or a grown-up Hawk spin-off where he's a UFC fighter.
That would be interesting. That would be cool.
James Armstrong 007 says Thomasine Griffith would be a perfect Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man.
I like that.
That's fun. I love this. Well, let's we have a lot of people that have ideas about what season 6 should be. Let me pull up a story with Ralph Macchio. So he teases the potential of a season 6 of Cobra Kai. And let's get down to, actually, there are a few choice quotes. The first thing he says here is, it hasn't officially been picked up. I need to say that because it's the truth. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind, guys. This was October 3rd. So this is just a few days ago. So as of a few days ago, it has not been officially picked up. But he praises John, Josh, and Hayden, rightly so. And then he goes down in this paragraph, there's more meat on the bones there, but it's got to be entertaining and organic. And I think there's plenty of places to go every season. Whether you bring in Tamlin Tomita as Kumiko or Elizabeth Shue, you also have Thomasine Griffith. What a great job he's doing. Karate Kid 3 was never, ever my favorite of those 3 movies. Now it's bearing such great fruit and storytelling and refined versions of characters. So, Drew, it seems like he might be kind of coming around a little bit on Karate Kid 3.
He's coming around. And look, I think we've said it before. It seems like for whatever reason, it might not have been what he was expecting out of that. And I respect that. I think that's okay. I think I was messaging you, right? We were talking about some quotes. I think Robin Lively, there was another article somewhere where they asked her, like, hey, you and Thomasine Griffith, this movie seemed to be sort of like, you guys were good with it because it was one of your first big breaks. Whereas, for Ralph, that was the 3rd in the series. And maybe the others who had been part of number 1 and number 2, which maybe were more critically accepted, maybe it wasn't what they were expecting. And maybe they were disappointed with the way that it came out. And that's certainly fair. Like, you put a lot of time into some of this stuff. So I get it. But I also think that, with John, Josh, and Hayden being fans of Karate Kid 3 and sort of taking what you would call like the best parts of it, or the pieces that have gone and created this legacy, such as the characters like Terry Silver, I'm glad that Ralph is starting to accept that, and that's good because it is a good movie. You've got a video on that too. It's a good movie, and I'll fight that. I'll fight anyone that says that it's not. So
I will say it's amazing. That was a conversation we had months and months ago, but we kind of re-uploaded it, and really a lot of people have been debating Karate Kid 3, and it's not this one-sided thing. I think that's at least the takeaway, is that it's not everyone hates it. A lot of people love it. Actually, a lot of people think it's the best one. And so it can't be dismissed. So I'm really glad. Thank you guys for watching our conversation about that. Let's see. And I'm seeing some of the comments. Do Guide Official says, does Ken read chat? I try to. There are so many great comments, but I try to read them. Cobra Kai World says, I don't think season 6 is the last one, since Hayden Schlossberg said they have a few more seasons planned. And we'll get to some of what the showrunners have said about that as well. Robana, who's a member of the channel, good to see you, Robana. Hilary Swank is pregnant, so odds of seeing her in season 6 are pretty slim. We will also get to Hilary Swank in a little bit. Let's see. NASA says that the last 2 seasons of Cobra Kai have rehabilitated Karate Kid 3. I mean, Drew, of course, you and I think that Karate Kid 3 didn't need to be rehabilitated, but I think maybe it's shown a new light on that movie.
Well, I think it might have been on the video that you had referenced, but I think I saw a comment on there that said hey, I'd never seen this movie before, but it's Cobra Kai season 5, maybe go back and watch it. I can't remember the person's name, but I thought that comment was really interesting, because I wonder how many people out there have done that. And we've speculated, back before season 4, people who had no idea who the heck Terry Silver was, are they going to go back now and say, like, what the heck is what's this guy? Who is he? You know, what's going on with this
Right.
character? And I think it's cool that people are going back and now rediscovering this movie that, you know, look, for all intents and purposes, it did have a mixed reception. I personally love it. I'll get on my soapbox. Is it a great film? No, but it's a great movie, in my opinion. And I think what's really cool is because of these 2 seasons, just like NASA said, there are people that are going back and experiencing it either in a different light or for the first time and getting a chance to really appreciate the good parts of it. And, we were from the camp of we've seen it and this sort of enhances what we knew about the characters. What's
Mhm.
cool is people that know the characters now can go back and sort of see it as a prequel in a lot of ways, especially if they haven't seen it before. So I'm glad that both exist because I think you can enjoy both on different levels and for different reasons. So I'm thankful to the creators for taking a lot of that because they could have easily ignored season or Karate Kid 3 and just said
Mhm.
whatever. Nobody likes
Right.
that. Who cares? And they didn't choose to do that. So I'm very happy that we got what we got.
Very well said, Drew. I think that's extremely well said. And I want to bring your attention back to what he said before because I think it should inform what we talk about. Where Ralph Macchio says it hasn't officially been picked up. I need to
Mhm.
say that because it's the truth. And I think you'll see this over and over again in these articles is people saying like there's so much potential, but there hasn't been a green light yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you I don't as we go through that, do you think this is a big factor or do you think it's something that they just kind of have to say?
I think I think I wonder 2 things. I wonder if it's, like you said, something that they have to say because they don't wanna maybe misset expectations, but then at the same time, you also wonder, does this put a little pressure on Netflix in some ways to say, "Hey, guys, it hasn't been picked up," and then that gets the buzz, and you've got these really big stars. I mean, they're some of the most famous people on Netflix right now putting their sort of line in the sand saying, "Hey, well, it hasn't been picked up." So, maybe the fans clamor a little bit and it sort of creates a little bit more buzz and then the fans start asking Netflix, "Hey, what's going on?" I saw another comment in the chat here earlier. I don't recall who it was from, but with John, Josh, and Hayden and them doing other projects,
Mhm.
some of those projects are with Netflix. So, you got to wonder, do they want to maintain a good relationship with the big three so that, it's not that they won't do that season 6, but let them have their creative endeavors here, let them finish some of those other shows, and then it'll be here when you're ready kind of situation. Maybe that's
Yeah.
also part of it too.
Yeah, I like that idea as well. Daniel says all we know is the story is far from finished. Everything's Saikai Taikai, Crease escaping from jail, Silver dealing with his illegal problems, etc. Very true. Um, do you know John Crease ruined Terry's little? Yeah. Well, I mean, and yeah, John Crease out there. What's he gonna do?
Mhm.
I mean, it's kind of weird though because no matter what he does from now on, he's an escaped convict.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how he could ever get out of that. Is he gonna be, like, on the run constantly? Like, could he get excused for that, even if he's found to be innocent? I don't know.
I mean, either way, you escape from jail. This is where we need to get, we need we need to get Bad Way back so he can tell us the statutes, and everything, but, I don't know because even if you were innocent, he still escaped from jail, so that in itself is a
Right,
crime, right? What comes first? The question.
right. Exactly. And NASA says, "I think Netflix better be really careful. If they cancel Cobra Kai after season 5, I think they could lose a lot of subscribers." And it's one of their big shows right now.
Yeah, and plus, look, I don't mean to say anything negative about Netflix, but they do have a reputation here. I think it's for a reason. People there's articles written all the time. It's like, what new show has been canceled by Netflix? And for whatever reason, right? Like we don't know their numbers all the time. So there's probably, business decisions that they have to make. But I mean, I'd be surprised if a show this popular got canceled. It just would shock me because, Stranger Things is coming to an end. I think there's only a little bit left for that. A lot of these other
Mhm.
shows are finishing up. This is a very popular show that they have, and it's got a lot of star power and a lot of popularity. So I'd be surprised. It would be shocking to me if they canceled it, but what do I know?
Right, I know, and we're going to have some numbers to go through and we can talk about Netflix because I think that's to me the wild card. I mean, people have complained their reputation, right, is that they will can't cancel shows early before they should be canceled. And we don't quite know how they think and why they choose to keep certain shows
Yeah.
and why they choose to cancel other shows. like you mentioned, Stranger Things. Season 5 is going to be the last season. You would think that they would keep that going on for a long time, but who, maybe it's too expensive, or maybe the creators want to end it. So
Mhm.
I don't know. But let's look at Hilary Swank. We had some commenters talking about Hilary Swank, and here's an article saying people ask her about Cobra Kai, and she says, "No one's called me." Okay, so I think this is her talking with Ryan Seacrest. Of course, we know that she was Julie Pierce in the next Karate Kid. And she said, "I'm not in Cobra Kai. No one's asked me to be in Cobra Kai." She told Ryan Seacrest. "A lot of people ask if I'm going to be on it. It's like the number one question I get." And then she said, "No one's called me, but it's so funny, isn't it? That's the one thing I get asked the most, and no one's called me."
Oh.
Okay, so now this is interesting because, as far as I know, if she's telling the truth here, if you believe her and she's not being coy, um, the other legacy cast members, I think Sean Kanan, Thomasine Griffith, all these other, Elizabeth Shue, I believe the big three did contact them years ahead of time, basically saying, would you be willing to come on? It's sort of like to get this where they're at, this
Mhm.
understanding. And, Thomasine Griffith talked about, well, tell me your ideas, and so they kind of
Mhm.
worked through those. And then when it came time, he was back. And it sounds like they haven't done that with Hilary Swank. So that's okay. They don't have to. But to me, I'm wondering, did the creators maybe not know for sure if it's going to go that long where we can bring Hilary Swank back?
It could be that. It certainly could, and I think that movie, look, there's a trilogy, and then there's that movie, and I'm not saying it's a bad movie by any means, but I think, I don't know how well regarded this one is, but I think there's certain characters, and Hilary Swank's an amazing actress. So if you could get her on a show like this, that'd be great. But I also
Mhm.
wonder, like, I remember when we interviewed Sean Kanan. Remember what he said to us when he said, he wanted to make a shirt that said, like, I don't know, or something. Like, people were
Right,
asking him,
right,
is he in the show?
right,
Could she be playing coy? Well, she's being oddly specific about very strong language of, they did not call me, no one's called me, blah blah blah, right?
right.
But there's certainly a case where she's also maybe playing coy, and maybe they did talk about it. I don't know. She's using very specific language, though. Do you think that this is not that she's a liar, but maybe it's to
Right.
misdirect? I don't know.
I'm wondering if it's exactly what you brought up earlier. I think it was a brilliant point you made about kind of putting pressure on Netflix,
Mhm.
because it could be that the people involved with Netflix aren't even aware that someone like Hilary Swank is part of this universe. And they might see this article and go, "Oh my gosh, wait a second. You're telling me that Hilary Swank could be on this
Yeah.
show?" And maybe kind of like this is sort of like a controversy article that would get headlines that the industry would go, "Whoa, whoa, wait a second. We gotta get Hilary Swank on here." I don't know. What do you think? Is that
I
possible?
I certainly think so. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for that sort of subtle pressure, because I think it does
Mhm.
work personally.
Yes.
Because when you start getting news headlines like on People and very much like very public, very, widely seen media outlets, that does start to put some pressure on, and it's like, you're right, if we could bring Hilary Swank in here, that'd be great, and
Mhm.
then we get even more, viewership, we get more subscriptions, because there may be people, like you said, that never even realized that Hilary Swank was part of the Karate Kid universe, because that next Karate Kid movie, it just wasn't as popular as the originals, and,
Right.
when you see that, I think it really could bring a lot of viewership in, so I think there's a lot to be said for that. I still just wonder, like, is this a secretive thing where she's not gonna reveal it? 'Cause she really can't. She can't say, "Oh, yeah, I'm
Right.
gonna be in season 6."
Right.
So, it's a little bit more toying with it, adds even more pressure, and it builds more hype for it too. It's like, "Well, is
Right.
she gonna be in it? Is she not?"
Yes.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I certainly hope she shows up, right? I think it'll be cool for the show and the series. So
Right. And Peter Cobra Kai Companion says they started her talks with Lisa during season 2. And so, yeah, this is kind of something I hear a lot, is that they did start talks early with a lot of these people that they knew they wanted to bring
Mhm.
back. And who knows, this could be, part of their plan. They just don't know if the series is going to go on. Maybe that's part of the negotiations, is coming up with a budget that would allow Hilary Swank to come back, and then they're going to reach out. I'm not exactly sure how it works from that end. I do want to take a few minutes and thank the super chats. Wildman Beyond, great to see you. Thank you for the super chat. It helps support the channel, guys. It makes this possible. There's a video of Hilary on Good Morning America that was asked that question. Yes, everyone's asking her. So hopefully it is a pressure tactic, you know? So let's see. And Wildman Beyond has another super chat and says they're going to bring her back. They're not fooling anybody. They think they're so slick. Julie Pierce will be back. The fact that would kind of close out the Mr. Miyagi story and the people we know who were important to Mr. Miyagi, I think that's important.
Yeah.
To see them again. And I know that there's that tension. Fans would love to see Julie Pierce meet Daniel LaRusso. I think that would, because they never met, they didn't know each other in the movies, and
the two students of Miyagi. It would be awesome.
It would be awesome. Super chat. Thank you, NASA. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Every super chat helps the channel. NASA says the other factor with Netflix is that when they first started, studios licensed content to them. Now studios have started their own streaming platforms, retained their properties. And this is an excellent point, because it really brings up the situation that Netflix is in right now. They are short on original content, Drew. And, as you said, Stranger Things is winding down. Like all these other things, they can try and develop new things. But if you have a show of the quality of Cobra Kai, and from what Josh Heald said at the live event earlier this year, it's really done on a budget that wouldn't support much more than people talking in a room. Like they do it very cheaply. And so you would think that they would want to keep that show around.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's a very, as we've said, it's a very popular show. It's, there's people that I know that are subscribed to Netflix specifically for this show. They're not watching any other content. Like they're watching this show, and they're watching it multiple times too. So, it certainly brings people in from a subscribership standpoint. And, if they have 6 seasons plus of this, you're going to get new people coming in and then catching all of the seasons. It sort of compounds a lot of the viewership. So it'd be surprising to me if they didn't at least give it another chance, especially since at the point in the story, it's almost like a reset. So it gives you, it's like this next chapter in the broader saga in a lot of ways. I mean, depending on where they go, of course, right? I'm not sure what they'll do, but taking this to a global karate competition, that's like on another level, and that's pretty cool. So pretty exciting.
It is pretty exciting. And we'll talk about this later, but that's also the reason I think they have to come back for at least 2 more seasons.
Yeah.
But let me get to this. Wildman Beyond, thank you again for the super chat. That's wonderful. Hilary already did 2 original projects for Netflix, so she has a contract with them. I wouldn't be surprised. Yes, she's done a number of shows with Netflix. So that's great. That I think bodes very well for her being a part of the show. Wildman Beyond, thank you for the other super chat. The big 3 confirmed that Daniel and Julie met at Miyagi's funeral, or am I wrong? I've heard that. I don't know, Drew. Did you?
I didn't hear that. No, but I wouldn't surprise me. I believe it.
Yes. And then Chris Klotz with the super chat. Thank you so much, Chris. Says we are still waiting for "You're the Best." We have not heard that song yet. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought in season 4 that they would do it, but they haven't done it yet. Cloud Leon, thank you so much for the super sticker. That helps support the channel. And thank you also for being a member. Thank you, guys. So Drew, I think we have some more actual articles. So let's go to the next one. I think, okay, so let's go. Okay, this is an article with the big 3. So they kind of talk about, this was from a couple weeks ago. They explain the season 5 ending, going global in season 6, and their Ferris Bueller spinoff. So you're right, they do have a lot on their plate. Right now, they have a lot of projects. And so they tease this season 6, but the article also says it hasn't been officially greenlit yet. They call it a possible season 6, if you can see this here, that they're in production right now for another Netflix series that you referenced before called Obliterated. And then they're doing another movie. And I know Josh Heald has another movie on top of that they're doing. but they kind of talk about where season 5 ends. We have all of them talk about, like Hayden saying, we'll see if life goes on easy in season 6, or if Crease has something to say. Something tells me it's going to be the latter. And then they ask straight up, are you already preparing for season 6? How much more story is there to tell? And then John Hurwitz says, we have more story to tell. And they talk about how, they think a lot about Cobra Kai season 6. But again, nothing's official. Nothing's greenlit. This is all, their best intentions. So I don't know. Can we take anything from this, them being creators?
I think, I love the part in the article where they talked about when they're working together, they live together and they just talk about things
Yes.
all the time. Like, it reminds me, I mean, my co-host with my show, Bad Boy, we used to live together for like years, and it was fun. Like, we would bounce ideas off of each other. So I think that's probably awesome for the creative process for them, because
Right.
they're working all day on Obliterated or whatever else they may be working on at the time. And then at night they may be talking about other creative projects. And I think that's just a cool way to handle that.
Right.
But I think it comes back to what you were saying earlier. It's a little bit more of maybe the pressure again. And people are asking them because they're curious. But the more that it gets out there, the more buzz and the more times they're answering this, and it gets written into headlines and titles. It's like season 6 unknown. I'm thinking about even our conversation here, right? It's
Right.
nobody knows. And I think that, I certainly think that they will do it justice, because they've done this whole thing very much justice. I think it's cool the way that they sort of set up, like we mentioned, almost like a second arc now. Whether Terry's out of jail or not, I think on the record he should be out of jail. But Crease out there looming, doing whatever he's gonna do. Like, there's certainly a lot of dangling plot threads. There's enough dangling plot threads, let me put it that way, to certainly take it in a creative way. But there's also enough of the closure in some cases outside of Terry being in jail that, could end if for some reason they don't. I like to think that even if they don't get a season 6, I personally think that it's ripe for, hey, let's do a movie or 2. And I think
Right.
it's the type of thing that they could get Sony to help them with too. I think there's enough
Right.
story there to do that.
I agree. And even if they do some kind of limited run series or something like that,
Yeah.
I think, there's definitely enough. NASA, thank you again for the super chat. Wonderful. Thank you. Wouldn't the show's rights be owned by Sony? YouTube commissioned season 3, but then Sony took the show to Netflix based on YouTube business decisions. Right. So Sony owns the right to the property, but Netflix is the distribution arm. So they are the platform that is distributing Cobra Kai. So right now it's exclusive to Netflix, and it's possible that Netflix could say, we're done with it, but then they could go to another streaming platform similar to what happened with YouTube, unless there's something in the contract that prohibits that, where Netflix has Cobra Kai forever. I don't know what the specifics of the agreement is, but I don't know. Does that sound fair to you, Drew?
Yeah, it does. I mean, some of these agreements are always weird, because I remember there was a show that I was watching years ago. It was when it was on Sci-Fi Channel at the time. It was The Expanse, and I forgot the company that makes it. But they wound up getting, like, they still had funding for that, but Sci-Fi didn't pick it up in the US, and there was this weird thing, and then Amazon swooped in and took it. It was sort of a similar situation to this, where Netflix swooped in and took this based on some of the YouTube business decisions that NASA's saying about. So I'd be curious. I mean, Sony is a big company. It's not like a small production company or anything like that. So they
Right.
certainly have enough. So even if it were to be canceled by Netflix, maybe you think they would try to do, like you said, something else, limited series or something, especially if they own the original rights.
Indeed. I want to get to some of these other ones. Kate Maloney, great to see you. Channel member, thank you. We haven't heard Glory of Love either. Yes.
That's a great song.
It is a great song.
Love that song.
It makes me think of fun times. And now Down Studio, this is off topic, but Karate Kid 3 is better than Star Wars sequels. I will say, I will watch Karate Kid 3 endlessly. I don't know if I'd say that about the Star Wars sequels.
I agree.
We're talking about the music that has yet to be in Cobra Kai. Peter, Cobra Kai Companion, says Joe Esposito wrote a song for season 6, something like You're the Best, but from Johnny's point of view. I wonder if they'd save You're the Best for another season, so you don't have 2 Esposito songs in one season. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, Drew, but I've heard the song.
Oh, you have? Oh, man.
I have. Yeah,
Oh
I've heard
man,
the song. I
I'm
can't talk
jealous.
about it, I can't talk about it, but yeah,
Was it
it's
good?
cool.
Can you say it's
Yeah.
good?
Oh, it's good. Oh, yeah, it's great. It's like Joe Esposito. It's awesome. Yeah. I think it's just a great thing. Nick Cruz, thank you for the super chat, Nick. Thanks for supporting the channel. Thank you guys for all that you do for
Thank
Cobra
you.
Kai. Always a pleasure to tune in. So like you said, Drew, we're bringing up this question, will season 6 be renewed? Could you say, is it fair to say that this whole stream is another example of putting pressure on
Yeah.
Netflix for
And I
season
hope
6?
Netflix, if you're watching, give us a season
Yeah.
6, please. And I certainly hope we get it because you got, however many people are in here right now and all these great comments and just everything. I don't know anyone that doesn't want a season 6. There's not a lot of people out there that would say, no, end it at 5. That's it. I'm keeping my Netflix subscription, so I'll keep it if you guys make me a season 6. So I'll be
Right.
happy to watch it.
Indeed. Brilliant filmmaker Dave Schrock says, we will surely need more Cobra Cole to hold us over for the long wait on season 6.
Yes, we do.
I totally agree. And if anyone from Sony, Netflix, or the big three are watching, yes, there is an entire story for Cobra Cole. It would be amazing. It would be the Better Call Saul mixed with Succession, mixed with The Office. It would be a great spin on Cobra Kai.
I'm waiting for a cameo of you in season 6. I think you need
Oh, Oh, you're gonna make me blush, Drew. I don't know if I can handle that. That'd be great. James Armstrong, thank you so much for the super chat and for supporting the channel. Terry with messy long white hair and a Santa Claus kind of beard in a prison jumpsuit behind bars, evil glare in his eyes with the tagline, "The final pain begins," as the poster for season 6. Oh my gosh. Drew, what
Man.
so I mean that's interesting.
You
That's
know,
interesting. I mean, I believe that he won't even be spending much time there, but if he is, then that would be pretty cool.
I'm a sucker for a good tagline, James. That's a big part of my podcast, but I'm a sucker for a good tagline, and that is a good tagline. The final pain begins. I like that.
Yeah.
But isn't there a movie with speaking of Stranger Things, is David Harbour? He's in a movie, it's like a Santa Claus spinoff. I forgot what it's called. You guys will have
Oh,
to remind me. But it's like a play on the whole like Santa Claus thing, like Santa's sleigh and all that stuff. But that's what that reminded me of. Oh,
yes,
man.
absolutely. We got to wallow in the Cobra Cole love. Jay says Cobra Cole 2 must be set around Christmas so we can see what kind of bonuses Terry gives. And that's honestly that's the fun of Cobra Cole, and that was kind of the inspiration, is seeing this other side of Terry Silver, the corporate side, that we would connect with in everyday life. What's he like as a boss? What's his company like? That kind of thing. So that would be great to
I
see him around Christmas
certainly
time.
I certainly hope it's more than the Jelly of the Month Club, Jay. So I don't know if Terry's not a Jelly of the Month Club guy. I don't think, right? I mean, would you guys think?
No.
I mean, he's got to be generous, I would think. So
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. And we're gonna, Drew, you and I, we should talk about National Lampoon's Christmas
we
Vacation
have to.
sometime. We have to. We have to. Michelle says, I love Cobra Cole. Thank you for watching, Michelle. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's in the description. You'll love it. Bryce Productions says, I think season 6 will focus on the next Karate Kid characters, and season 7's about the World Tournament. So Bryce brings up a good point, Drew, and I'm going to make my case to you even before we get to the numbers. If they bring back Cobra Kai for season 6, I think there has to be at least 7 seasons, because we have hit this point where it's like it felt like a conclusion at the end of season 5. And so I feel like season 6, if it's not going to be anticlimactic, we have to rev up again.
Yeah.
And I think that the story needs the time to rev up and get to a cliffhanger, and then everything gets resolved in season 7, because it almost seems like if you're going to really resolve the whole series after it feels like there's a resolution, I don't know. I think you need at least 2 seasons to do that. That's just me.
No, I agree with you because I think season 5 was such a wild ride. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, especially the way that it ended and like all the craziness and that crazy fight. It's like I was exhausted after watching it because it was so crazy. And you're right. Like, how do you just like, I don't know that you can not dial it up even more than that. You kind of need to come down a little bit before you go back up. And I think to your point, maybe to get ready for that world tournament and sort of the fallout of everything that's going on and this sort of just where is everybody at right now and what's going on with everybody. I think you do need that setup, and then 7 can be sort of that like crazy sort of finale. And especially we've talked at length about this, the length of the show. At 25 to 35 minutes with your occasional like 40 plus. It's a very tightly done show, and you got to give them credit for trying to juggle all the storylines. But maybe it's a chance to reset here. I don't know, but I think it's tough. Like I think you're right. You need 2 more seasons at least to kind of resolve, or at least set some more stuff up and then resolve it.
Exactly. So there's some extra pressure, Netflix. It's got to happen. Darkest Hour says, Bad Terry's going to get some, wait for it, coal in his stockings. Yeah, I love how you think, Darkest Hour. That's great. Michael Graff says, I just want Ken and Drew to cameo as protesters outside the prison where Terry's being held. Hey, Drew, I mean, I'll do that in real life.
Please. Yeah. Wherever they're holding him, I'll take a trip. Just call me. I'll meet you there.
Indeed. Phil Smith says, recently in an interview, Sholo said that he believes they have one more good season to tell. What are your thoughts? We actually did talk about this, I don't know, maybe half hour ago or something like that. We brought up this thing, and we were basically saying that he just wants to make sure that it doesn't go on too long. It either season 6 or season 6 and season 7, but just he doesn't want people to remember it being like only the first 5 seasons were good. So let's see. Robana, thank you, Robana, for the super chat. Cobra Cole needs a Thomas Ian Griffith cameo. I mean, it would be amazing. Yeah, it would be. There's so many amazing ideas. Well, Drew, so we've been kind of just talking generally, but I think we need to dive into some numbers.
Yeah.
I think we need to look at what's going on. So I am going to share the screen. This is the news story of what's happening today. Okay. So this is a Hollywood Reporter. Everyone, they love on-screen ads, so please excuse those. Cobra Kai kicks Rings of Power out of the top streaming spots. So this is what Hayden tweeted about. So this is a great achievement in itself. And it says Lord of the Rings of Power held steady in its second week of release, but gave up its #1 spot in the streaming rankings. And this is from September 5th to the 11th. Netflix's Cobra Kai claimed the top overall spot for the week, which saw the premiere of the show's 5th season. It drew 1.74 billion minutes of viewing time across its 50 episodes. So this is factoring in all the seasons of Cobra Kai. And then it talks about some other shows. So that's a lot of time. That's a lot of minutes. And also keep in mind that it came out September 9th. So really, this would only be for the first 3 days that it was released. So that's really good. Here's the thing, though, and the only reason that I'm kind of nervous about all this stuff is because we have Netflix involved. I want to bring this up in comparison. This is from season 4. So when that released for the first 3 days, season 4 had 120 million hours viewed in the first 3 days on Netflix. Okay. So they're using hours and minutes. So I made this crude graphic here so we can kind of compare. But season 4 by itself, in its first days of release, it got 120 million hours and 7.2 billion minutes streamed. Okay. Season 5, that's the new season plus all the other seasons, only got 29 million hours streamed, or 1.74 billion minutes streamed. So this is interesting, Drew, because it means that season 5 was streamed, at least in the first 3 days, less than a quarter as much as season 4 was streamed. We don't know how much. You think that season 5 would make up the majority of the streaming of Cobra Kai, but so that's really a big difference. And so knowing what Netflix does and that they're trigger happy, I don't know. This looks like a much softer opening for season 5 than season 4. Obviously, it did really well compared to the competition, but nowhere near as huge as season 4. And so, Drew, I want to ask you, what do you think? Because you're a numbers guy. I know that, in another life, you work numbers all the time. And you know that there are going to be numbers people at Netflix.
Yeah.
And that's how their algorithm is how they decide what shows to keep and what not to keep. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's interesting because, they're blending numbers. So if you look at the right-hand column of the chart, right, the one that you pulled here, but like it's 5 plus all the other seasons. So what percentage of that is 5? We don't really know. And it's sort of blended, as you said. 4 had a huge release, and I think, there's a couple of things that I think are maybe factors for this, and this is just me speculating, but I think you had season 4 come out at the holidays, like, right at New Year's, and if this is 3 days of release, they released on a Thursday into a Friday, right? Or I guess the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the first weekend, but it was September, so you had, football season, so there's a lot of stuff going on right now with football. That's a very popular sport. You've got a lot of other things going on. People are back in school. It's, when you look at when 4 came out, it was New Year's, so people are home on the holidays, they're there, maybe they can binge the whole thing in one sitting. Maybe 5 was one of those scenarios where there's just a lot of other things going on, and I think you mentioned this earlier, there's a lot of other shows releasing right now with Rings of Power and a bunch of other things out, so it's competing with, other shows and other activities that people are doing this time of year. I'd be
Mhm.
really curious to see what would have happened had this come out around the holidays again. There's something about the Christmas time, or at least the holiday time and New Year's, that really, I just felt like it added some extra buzz to it for people
Yeah,
that may not have been as into it as maybe people like us. Like, I wouldn't watch this no matter what, and I watched it, right away. But I also have some friends that are more casual that, because of other things going on right now, they've watched a couple episodes here or there. I don't have that kind of impulse control, like, I'm gonna just watch
right,
them all, but I think
right.
there's a lot of stuff going on right now that may be affecting this, some of the things that I already pointed out, but I'm curious if you what do you think about that? 'Cause I don't know. There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, there is a lot going on right now, and I'll be honest with you, when I first heard saw the release date was gonna be September 9th, I was kind of I was like, "Really?" Because,
Surprising.
yeah, it was kinda surprising because that was such a great spot. The
Mhm.
holiday time at the end of the year, I don't know about you, but that was the perfect day, like, around New Year's to just sit home and binge.
Yep.
Like, yeah, nothing else going on. Um, it was enough time to anticipate, and I felt like, it's almost like having, if you have a great meal for lunch and a great meal for dinner, well, you're gonna enjoy that meal at dinner a lot more if it's spaced out enough from lunch.
Yeah.
If you have this great lunch and then you have a great dinner, at noon, and then you have a great dinner at 3 p.m., you're not gonna enjoy that dinner as much because you're already full. And I'm wondering if that's part of the problem. There wasn't enough time uh, to anticipate season 5.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I'm sure Netflix made that decision because they needed something there, for whatever reason, but that's too bad. Yeah, and I agree. I think there are a lot of other reasons for that. Let's see. Season 3 and 4 came out on New Year's Day. Right. So that's a good time. Chad says people were home, and you know, during the pandemic for season 4,
That's
wasn't it?
true
And
too.
so there was a pandemic, people were spending a lot more time at home. So that's a big thing. Robana says it was the hype of having Terry Silver return.
That's a thing too.
And
I agree.
yeah, yeah, and they did a great job with that entire teaser for Terry, and that happened 7 months before the season released. And what a time to get that excitement going. And there wasn't anything like that for season 5. There wasn't the time to do anything like that. And, you know, I don't like, I know people have talked about Mike Barnes. Obviously, Sean Kanan was magnificent in season 5, but could Mike Barnes have been that for season 5 if they had enough time? And maybe I know his character wasn't, as like mysterious as Terry Silver, but uh, you wonder if they could do a whole marketing campaign based on Mike Barnes coming back.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think you made a really good point because I forgot how early we got the silhouette of Terry and all of that, and that was a huge deal. And there was a lot of time in between. And I think we were talking about this. It was like August time frame, right? Or maybe it was July. When we were talking about in the summer, we weren't seeing a ton of marketing, and we were wondering like, when is this coming? And then you got sort of a drip campaign come a couple weeks before, and there was something every week, but it didn't seem like it was marketed as much. It was more like grassroots, almost like influencer marketing, where you had
Right.
people talking about the show, like content creators and things like that. But there didn't seem to be a huge like marketing budget from them, at least compared to maybe some of the previous seasons for whatever reason. I don't know. But I think you made a good point earlier too. They had Stranger Things, and that came out in 2 parts, and then there was
Right.
kinda nothing in between there for them, and all these other streaming services have these other shows coming out, like,
Right.
they might have been trying to compete and try to get that. We've talked a lot about their
Mhm.
subscribers, the price hikes, people going, in and out of the service. I think there's a lot of factors here. It is a huge disparity in the numbers, though. It's really
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that it was that much different.
Right.
Mm,
And so what would the limitations be of this? It could be that people will it could have a longer tail, maybe. Like people might not watch it all at the beginning. They
mhm.
might kind of pick it up, as it goes along. That's possible. But you'd think with, if they've done their job of creating anticipation, everyone's going to be watching when it premieres, or at least the hardcore
Yeah.
fans.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I'm not sure. Undisputed Goat says they should have teased Mike a little more because we just got one picture of him. I was kind of I was actually kind of confused about that. Like you're bringing back a big character, they just kind of put
Mhm.
him out like one of 12 photos in a photo dump one day.
Do you
You
think
know,
that with him, and I was wondering about this as I watched the season, do you think they didn't do much because he wasn't in it as much as I think a lot of people had expected? And it's either
right.
maybe they thought maybe they were gonna keep it a surprise, and then maybe someone decided to use it as a marketing tool. Maybe they weren't sure whether they were gonna do that or not, because even with Terry, like, you got that, like, it was like a video teaser or something,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
there was more to it, and we just got this, like, weird still picture. I mean, it was great to see it,
Right.
but it's either, like, go all in or don't show it kinda situation. It was odd. Maybe they didn't wanna miss set expectations or something, 'cause I wish he
Yeah.
was in it more. If there's anything that I wish he got more screen time. So hopefully for season 6 he will.
Yeah, I agree. I love Mike Barnes, obviously huge character in Karate Kid 3. I was talking with Strife the Warrior, and he said that there may have been reasons like Sean might have been dealing with an injury, and so he
Mm,
wasn't able to appear in the season as much as
mhm.
they had intended. I don't know about that story. We might have to talk to Sean about
Yeah,
that. But yeah, I do wish that he was more of a part of season 5. And I agree with you. You would think that they would tease him somehow, even in the trailer, but
yeah.
they didn't. So it almost seems like kind of like maybe the marketing department went, "No, we're not going to say anything." And then someone said, "No, we got to say something,"
Here's the
to
cool
get
picture.
people's interest. Yeah, yeah. Here's the picture. So yeah, I think, um, let, let's see. I don't know. Undisputed Goat. Could I get featured on the KenCast After Dark board? There you go. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with the marketing. I do agree that it seemed like maybe they didn't put as much of a budget into it, or maybe they thought that they could kind of coast and not put as much money into it because they put so much into season 4. But I've heard stories that casual fans didn't even know it was coming out.
Yeah. It
So
wasn't it but they had some like the billboards, right? But that was, like, right at the end, and that was cool
right.
that they did that. But like, you didn't see really TV commercials, you didn't see anything. Like, I've seen, there was, like, Netflix commercials for Stranger Things, wasn't there? Like, at least I think that there were.
Yeah.
There's I mean, that's a very, very, very big show. Not saying that Cobra Kai isn't as big, but I'm just surprised that they didn't do more, and maybe that would affect the numbers. So hopefully, I don't know if they'll show, like, the longevity numbers or whatever the right terminology is, but I wonder what it's done since those first 3 days, because has
Mhm.
it gone up, and maybe you just had people find more time over the next couple weeks to actually watch it. Those
Yes.
first 3 days are tricky, and I just think it's almost like not an apples to apples when you say September. I forgot the specific date, it's all blurring for
Right.
me, but January 1st, versus September something, like, there's
Right.
just it's very different time of year. It's hard to
Right.
judge that and compare them?
That's right, because was it a I can't even remember. It was a Friday, right? Yeah, it was a Friday that it came out. So that
Mhm,
would include the weekend.
mhm.
But yeah, it's really a funky time. Not sure
Yeah.
why they did that. Paola says, in general, it seems like Netflix rushed the production for season 5, which they did produce it very quickly. It's like they almost produced it right on top of season 4. And I don't know, I don't know if that affected the decisions as far as like making the show. I guess we'd have to talk to people involved with the show, but it does seem like they made it go through pretty quickly, which is great in one way. But, again, would they do that with Stranger Things? Because, maybe I'm biased, but I think Cobra Kai should be respected kind of on that level.
I agree.
mean, Stranger Things references the 80s. Cobra Kai is the spirit of the 80s brought forward.
Yeah. They're very like complementary shows in a lot of ways, and I feel like they should be both respected in the same vein. I mean, they've got amazing acting performances in both. The way that they do it, they operate a little bit differently, but I think they are very much in the same vein, and I think that I wish that it did get. Hopefully it will get the respect that it deserves there.
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle says, I was surprised Bobby wasn't in season 5. It's really interesting to me that obviously Ron Thomas does such a great job in the show, and there's so many characters, and we've talked about this. There's so many characters in the show, and there's such limited time to get to all the characters. But yeah, you've got Bobby there. He's an original Cobra. He was in Cobra Kai, and we still haven't seen him interact with Crease yet. Which is interesting. Or Daniel.
Yeah.
And of course, Tom Cole. We didn't see Tom Cole in season 5 either.
I need Tom Cole back in there.
Yeah. I agree. David Chatra is incredible.
He is
very
awesome.
funny. Very funny. Damien says Terry Silver is the best Cobra Kai for life. Yeah, absolutely. Vince says, I kind of thought Terry should have reigned supreme by the end of season 5. They got rid of their emperor too soon. And that's another thing, Drew. It did kind of go towards this finale. It kind of felt like it could be a wrap up. They left some things dangling, but if Netflix said, oh no, it's 5 seasons, it felt like it had a bit of a conclusion to it. So I don't know. What do you think? Would you have wanted Terry to reign supreme longer?
Absolutely. So I think back to all those like prop bets we did. Shout out to Peter. Like we were on with Cobra Kai Companion. We did the prop bets with him, watch party, some other folks, and that was a lot of fun. And I think we had all speculated, and I think I said at the time, I'm going to will it into existence, and it didn't. I guess my willpower wasn't that good, but I wanted that to happen. And maybe to Vince's point, like, I don't know if it was a situation where, like you said as well, okay, we got to maybe end this just in case. We don't want to leave it so messy, because then it's just, he's the bad guy wins, and the majority of general public does not want the bad guy to win, generally speaking. I would argue Terry's not a bad guy. I have a lot of thoughts on that too. But I think that I agree with you. I wish he was sort of the big bad at the end of season 5, because he didn't get a chance to stay on top as long as I would have wanted. And I would have been awesome to see him going into the Seikai Taikai maybe at the top. So in an alternate reality, maybe we'll get Terry reigning supreme at the end of season 5.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. Michelle says Cobra Kai's been in the top 10 for a month. That's still huge. Indeed, it is. Yeah, that's and we'll have to follow these stories to see where it ranks going forward, because it could have that long tail. You're right. It's a completely different time of year, so maybe there are different rules.
Yeah, that's where I'd like to see the longer numbers, like the rest of the month, and maybe up until October here. Like, what has it done since the first 3 days? Maybe it's more of a slow burn.
Right. Yes. Undisputed Goat says, I thought we would get a Tom Cole and Terry team up.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. There's history there. Maybe we still will.
We
don't know it.
He should have funded the dealerships and then take Daniel out that way. That's what I really wanted.
Indeed. James Armstrong has this question. Do you think that Terry had planned to pass the torch to Kenny had he not been exposed? He was bonding with Kenny the most. He did seem to develop a good mentorship of Kenny, don't you think?
I think he knew, especially with Tori sort of being on the outs here, and she was sort of fighting back against the teachings. Like, he needed a new person, and I think Terry. I mean, he said it in that scene when they were in his office. He saw a lot of himself in him, and I think he looked at that, and I think he wanted to take him under his wing. So I think James is right. Like, I do think he would have tried to make him his top student. And I would have liked to see that, actually. I think that would be cool. What could he do with even more time with Kenny? because Kenny was sort of learning his confidence, and after that scene, I mean, he took over, and I
Right.
like that. So I would have liked to see where it would have gone to give us a little bit more time with those two.
Right. And imagine if Terry had the time to do that with more students.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have been truly unstoppable. Um, Paula says, I agreed. I was expecting at the very least they wouldn't be able to take down Terry until halfway through season 6. Jay Wiggin, good to see you, Jay. If Cobra Kai ended with season 5, then I'll imagine Terry Silver gets his revenge. He told Chosen it's never too late to get the last laugh. Yes. Josh says Tom Cole will save Terry. Tom Cole is the X on the map. I love it. That's great. So Drew, we've kind of looked through a lot of articles. We've listened to cast and crew. We've looked at the numbers. We know Netflix and we know their reputation. So what can you say? Can you make a prediction about whether we'll get season 6 and maybe a percentage, and then when it might happen?
Oh, that's a tough one. So I think I'm going to say definitely over 50% that we're going to get a season 6. And I think because of the relationship that they have with Netflix, I think I'd be surprised, and the popularity of the show, whether the first 3 days numbers are, an indication or not, I'm not sure. There's certainly validity to them, but I think that we'll probably, I'd say like 75% at least will get a season 6, but I think it probably won't be until like 2024 because of all the other projects that they have going on right now. I think
Right.
with Obliterated going on, and then the Ferris Bueller's Day Off spinoff or side project that they have with that, there's some other things that are going on. I think it's going to be a bit before it, but the only risk that you run with that is you start getting these people who have gotten famous through this show now picked up on other projects. So can you bring everybody back? And that's the danger when you take more than a year in between seasons for some of this stuff. You saw a lot of that with a lot of those like Arrowverse shows on CW. People are getting picked up on other channels and stuff. So I think it'll probably be a 75% chance more, and I think it'll be like 2024 or later. That's my prediction, but I don't know. What's yours?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think maybe they're working on Obliterated right now, and I think 75% sounds good. I think maybe 75% chance we'll get a green light by November.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we don't get a green light by then, as time goes on, I think that percentage goes down.
Yeah.
For those reasons that you talked about. You have a cast that is getting more expensive. They're moving on to other projects. They've been with the show for 5 seasons already. They're probably going to be wanting raises every season. So the show's going to get more expensive. The budget's going to get bigger. And you never know what's going to happen with Netflix. You don't know, as time goes on, you don't know if tastes change. If season 6 is coming out so far after season 5, Netflix is going to have to put some money into a marketing campaign.
Sure.
Probably similar to what they did for season 4 to really ramp up the hype for season 6. Because we don't have really intense cliffhangers at the end of season 5, we're going to have to get that momentum going again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I would think that given everything, if we get a renewal, it'll be for season 6. I wouldn't be surprised if season 6 and 7 are greenlit together, with the understanding that season 7 is the last season. I think that maybe they'll try to negotiate something like that, where they know that will be the end of the series.
Yeah.
That's just my guess. So consider this pressure, Netflix. Definitely do that. I want at least 2 more seasons, spinoffs, that type of thing. And, as Dave Srock said, if you guys need something to keep the audience warm until season 6 comes along, obviously a Cobra Kai series, would be perfect for that. But yeah, that's how I see it, at least. And I agree with you, Drew. I think it's going to be at least 2024.
Yeah, I hope. One thing I'll say that is good, and you mentioned it, was when if they say, hey, this is going to be season 6 and this is going to be season 7. I actually like when shows come out and say, hey, this is the last season, versus these things just endlessly going on. It's like you don't know where they're going to go. The showrunners don't know, so they don't have to write different outs to get out. It's better if they just say, this is the end. and then you know what it
Yeah.
is, you're anticipating it, and they have a clear runway and a clear landing. And I think 6 and 7 would be the right way to do it. And I agree with you. I hope that it happens. Put it that way.
Anthony, we talked about this briefly, but Anthony brings up, must it stay on Netflix? If they don't renew it, can't some other streaming service pick it up? And we talked about how that could happen. But Drew, what do you think would that be a good thing for the show to pass it to a new streaming service? Or what do you think?
It depends on where it goes, put it that way. Like, if it went to an Amazon or something, like, I think, an equivalent, I think it could be good for the show, because as long as they retain creative freedom and they have some type of budget, like, if I don't think you can up the stakes and lower the budget that much. Maybe you could, I guess they could get creative with it, but I think it would depend on where it is. And I think, like, maybe an Amazon, I don't know that I'd want it on, like, a Disney Plus, just because of
Right.
I won't go into that, but it's just, especially with the way that they've sort of, like, made it a little bit more, like, they've got profanity and stuff. It's more, like,
Right.
serious. I don't know if they would do that on Disney. I'm not sure. But I think, yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious if they would do it. Maybe, I mean, it went from YouTube to Netflix, like someone said earlier. So yeah, I think they could do it, and I'd be okay with it as long as they retain the creative freedom.
Yes. Kate Maloney, who's a channel member, thank you, Kate, says, I adore Mary Mauser, but she's going to be older in season 6 than Ralph was for Karate Kid 3,
Mhm.
so they need to hurry. I mean, I think she's 26. And so, yeah, if they don't shoot for at least another year, yeah, I mean, she's going to be, they're going to be doing, we were so amazed that Ralph Macchio was actually that old for Karate Kid season 3. But
Yeah.
yeah, we have like a teen cast that is well into their 20s right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
can they wait that long?
I mean, you look at with Stranger Things, and it starts to get kind of weird where you got some of these people that are playing. I mean, I know it's always like a meme, people that are, 30 playing teenagers. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This show, you do have some very young cast members, like very young. Like, even you look at some of the students, and it is gonna get weird at a certain point unless they do a time jump. I think, what are they, 2019 in the show or something? I forgot the specific year. They reference it
Right.
sometimes, but
Yes.
maybe they could do a time jump. I don't know. They'd have to find a way to write that in there somehow. So someone
Right.
mentioned HBO too. Like, that could be an interesting one. Yeah, there you go, James. HBO Max. That could be an interesting place for it to be too, as long as Discovery doesn't ruin it. Put it that way.
Right. Exactly. Well, because HBO does a great job of taking care of these prestige series, which I know we feel like Cobra Kai definitely should be a prestige
Sure.
series, or should be considered a prestige series.
Mhm.
Jay Wiggins says, not Disney, please. Nelson Studio says, no Disney. And just to follow up on that, okay, Paola says everything but Disney.
I didn't realize I would have struck a chord with that.
Disney's fine. Look at Andor, Dark and Gritty.
I haven't
So
watched that yet.
I haven't watched that either. But tell me, Drew, why not Disney?
I so I have some thoughts on this, and I think, like, I haven't watched Mighty Ducks Game Changers. Like, I've heard mixed things on that, and I'm a Mighty Ducks fan, so I definitely, that's up my alley. So I have to watch that, and maybe I shouldn't say anything until I see it. But I just feel like, I don't know, there's something. It's gonna sound bad. It's just, like, so corporate when it goes there. Like, there's just this, like, this air of it, and I feel like, I don't know, and maybe that's unfair to say about them. I just feel like, I don't know, there's something about the creative freedoms and whatever there is there. It just doesn't seem like it would be given the freedom that it has where it is, where they're dropping F-bombs and stuff. Not that you need that in a show,
Right.
but they can do it if they want to. Can you see that on Disney? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess Deadpool's on there, and some of the other Netflix series like Daredevil and some of the more violent ones. I just feel like it might get diluted, or they might be, like, hamstrung by what they could do. Maybe that's unfair, but that's how I feel about it. I don't know if anyone agrees with me on that.
Yeah. I I can definitely see where you're coming from. It's like it can kind of do its own thing on Netflix. It doesn't have to be skewed towards kids or family or that type
Yeah.
of thing. And the more I'm thinking about it, the more Netflix really needs to not only hang on to this show, they should really support it with the budget
Mhm.
and great marketing campaigns, because it could be like a Stranger Things in its own way.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be if they don't promote it the way they should. So I would like going forward for them to give each season enough time for production, and then also give each season the proper marketing campaign that it deserves. But
yeah, I agree.
yeah. So, and some other people, Darkest Hour, Mighty Ducks ran into COVID issues while filming season 1 and couldn't do what they wanted to do with the first season. And I know some other people were talking about the Mighty Ducks. Mighty Ducks is fun. Darkest Hour, I was disappointed by Mighty Ducks.
You know what's funny, and I did not notice this, and I have to mention this because we just talked about Mighty Ducks, but man, how did I not know that and I'm usually good at that guy from that thing. So Wolf, the dentist Stanson, and I don't know if anyone noticed this, the guy who plays the Team Iceland coach in Mighty Ducks 2 is the guy that was translating for the Sekai Taikai group, and I did not make that connection like a fool. And man, when I realized that, I was like, oh my God, because I was looking up search terms for our website because I have a picture of Wolf the dentist on there, and it was Wolf the dentist Cobra Kai. And of course, that's how I found out. Wow, I feel like a fool for that, but I love that guy. He's a great actor. So
that's great. Well, that's great that you shared it because I'm sure a lot of people watching now didn't realize it either. So yeah, everyone check it out. Josh says Sid, now this is played by Ed Asner, deserves his great goodbye. I hope he'll give his money to Johnny, and Johnny buys all Cobra Kai dojos and becomes with it Miyagi dojos. Yeah. And then Ben agrees with you, Drew.
Thank you, Ben.
Which is great. And you guys liked Mighty Ducks. Eliza says I'm a huge Mighty Ducks fan because I'm from Anaheim and I like the reboot for the first season, but season 2 is not meeting the hype at all. And right. So NASA says the other thing with Disney or HBO Max is that they get into a possible rights dispute. I mean, Sony owns the property, but HBO is owned by Warner and Discovery.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because Sony doesn't yet have its own streaming platform. So who knows?
Right? Well, but Crackle.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is Crackle.
But that's not. Like, I don't think it would fit there.
No. Does Crackle have? It might have original
ads, I think, but then it's. I think they're very big on anime, and if I want to understand, that's like a lot of their content. But there's a good comment in here. It's Maths for Fun. It says they need to release 1 episode a week, and I actually wanted to ask you guys about that because there's a lot of shows that are out there that do 1 episode per week, or they do the first 3 and then they do 1 per week. I don't know if this show would benefit from that. I kind of think it would in a lot of ways. I know it goes against the Netflix model, or at least the traditional Netflix model. I do wonder if that would help sustain the hype and sustain the buzz because, I did this. I watched it all in like a day or 2. And then it's not that I stopped talking about it because we're talking about it now, but I didn't go back. And I think about other shows like House of the Dragon, where it's like, I can't wait to see the next episode or what's going to happen. And you get that weekly speculation. And, I know a lot of the content creators have talked about this, like they want it to be weekly because it's easier to kind of cover more stuff and you can dive into it a little more. I wonder how much that would benefit the show too. I think it's a great comment.
Yeah, that is a great comment. I think we saw with Stranger Things, they split it. And I think even splitting it, say like releasing the first 5 episodes in September, releasing the last 5 episodes in October, I'd binge through the first 5. And while I'm waiting for the next 5, I'd probably watch the first 5 again. I'm sure a lot of people might watch it multiple times in anticipation when they wouldn't if they just could binge all the way through.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of an idea too. So Drew, thank you for joining us tonight. I think we kind of hopefully answered the question. I think we're pretty hopeful about season 6. Seems like everyone wants to do it. And the only person or group that could say no would be Netflix. So hopefully they don't. And I hope we all have a lot more Cobra Kai in our future. Do you have any final thoughts tonight?
Oh, no, I think there's so many great comments in here, and it's been awesome to hang out with everybody. I mean, this is one of my favorite things to do, to hang out with all of you guys. It's just great to talk about the show and just get everybody's thoughts. And I think it's cool to see the buzz around it, because there's, 5 seasons of a show. A lot of shows don't make it past a couple. So the fact that still people want another season of it, I think there's a lot to be said for that. And they've sustained a lot of that success. So I think there's still a lot of good energy for it. And I think that the show has a lot of cool places that it can go. So I'm, as Ben says in the chat, Cobra Kai never dies. So
that's right, Ben. Cobra Kai never dies.
I'm with you, man.
No mercy. Thank you, Matey. So, yeah, Drew, it's great having you here, and everyone needs to check out your podcast, your other podcast, the Last Row podcast. Any movie fan, any Cobra Kai fan, any Terry Silver fan needs to go listen to the Last Row podcast. And can you tease at all any movies that you're thinking about doing next?
Well, we did actually do the Mighty Ducks trilogy, so go back and check that out. Our first episode ever was the Mighty Ducks. It's probably not very good if you go back. I don't know if it's any good if you go back and listen to it, but we did the Mighty Ducks trilogy, so go check those out. But future, we haven't decided what movie we're going to do this next week, so maybe if you guys want to help influence, write it in the chat here or something, or leave a comment on the video.
Yes.
But we're looking at some Halloween movies. We will have 2 episodes this month, so certainly one of them will be something Halloween related. So if you guys have any requests, send them through, and maybe we'll make it make a dream come true there. But we just did our Invincible episode. Go check that out, and then we'll have a new episode this upcoming Thursday. So thank you.
That's great. Everyone, information about the Last Row podcast is in the description. Go ahead and click on it so you can listen to and get in touch with the Last Row podcast. Any requests, feel free to leave them in the comments below the video if you're not watching live, if you're watching on a replay. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for spending time with us and listening to us and giving us your thoughts. I love spending time with all of you. I love seeing all of your comments. I wish I could get to all of them. Thank you to everyone who helped support the channel as well. And if you enjoyed this and you want to help support the channel, the easiest thing to do is subscribe. It's great. It's free. Just click on the button. You're going to feel great. And it helps us out. It helps support the algorithm and gets this video out to see more people. So go ahead and hit subscribe. Also, the Last Row podcast has a YouTube channel. So go over there and hit subscribe there. And that helps us support us quite a bit.
Thank you.
So guys, thank you so much. I was hoping to have another KenCast for you on Saturday. I don't think it's going to happen, but we have lots of KenCasts lined up for next week as well. So Drew, I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon in the near future.
Thank you. Thanks, Ken. And thanks everyone for hanging out tonight. It's been awesome to talk to you all. Thank you.
Absolutely. And everyone have a great weekend. And remember, KenCast. I'm trying to, I need a tagline. I don't have a tagline yet. I'll get you one, but thanks for joining us on KenCast. And we'll see you next time. I'll just let our outro do it. All right. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you for joining us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next time on KenCast.